Hey, chiropractic students and recent grads, how successful could you be if you had a resource that clarified your vision, helped you develop a plan, saved you money, time, and heartache, shortened your learning curve, and helped you become profitable your first few months after opening? The Chiro Planner is here. More than just a journal, it's a guide to creating and launching your chiropractic practice in 100 days. It's jam-packed with tools, tips, ideas, action steps, resources, and inspiring quotes from some of the top chiropractors and entrepreneurs in the world today. Think of it as your own personal mentor, inspiring you, answering your questions, helping you to set goals, and advising you on the many unknowns of opening a practice. Go to www.chiroplanner.com today and save 40% by taking advantage of pre-launch pricing.
Welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
Well, hello there. I am Dr. Richard Day, and this is the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast. So thrilled that you are spending some of your time here with me today. Well, one of the great things I get to do is come in contact with a lot of students. And this particular pair of doctors graduated from Cleveland Chiropractic, and they went down to Peru to work in an office that is established down there. And they are having a ton of fun and really learning a lot. But their ultimate goal is to be able to open a clinic down in Peru on their own. So a few weeks back, they called me up and said, hey, can we ask you some questions just about business in general? Now, I admit I know nothing about Peru. I have not traveled there. And you know, there's a lot to running a chiropractic practice and a business, but all of my information and experience is based on doing it in the United States. But I talked with these doctors, and, you know, I think I gave them some good pointers. I hope I gave them some good pointers. And I think it's really beneficial for my listeners to be able to listen to other doctors who are out there. And this is something completely unique for me, opening a practice in a foreign country. But I think a lot of the lessons, it turns out, they are the same lessons and things we want to know when we are opening our practice here in the U.S. So without further ado, let's listen to my conversation with Doctors Zach and Serina Harvey. I read what you sent in Facebook the other day, just again to refresh myself on what you're looking to do. So you want to open a clinic there?
Yes. Eventually, yeah.
You want to be there for 2 years and then open a clinic there?
Mm-hmm. Basically.
Yes. So we're gonna probably work for the guy we're working for now for finish out this year and probably one more, and that way we have like some money saved up. And then we want to move to more northern Peru, where it's like more like vacation-y, you know, people visit. It's like warm all the time and beachy. And we want to set up a clinic that we can work at for a year, maybe 2 years, however long it takes to get it started. And then have people from like recent graduates work there.
Okay.
Because even moving here, like I've had people ask me like, hey, do you know of any jobs in South America? Like I know this person looking for one, or I know this person looking for one, and there really aren't that many, and really all of South America. So
yeah, so if we were able to make a clinic that would function properly and that we could get going and have a decent patient base, then I think it would be pretty successful to be able to bring in new grads to come through and give them that learning experience, kind of like what our employer is doing with us. But hopefully we could make it a little bit better, I think, even. So
yes.
A little bit less stressful. But yeah, that's kind of like the long-term goal. And then so that we can, then once we get that clinic started, then we want to go back to the States and continue practicing and then kind of have like a home base for South America if we wanted to come down and travel and stuff like that. So
yeah, we want to start a few out in like one in Dodge and one in a surrounding city too. We want to have, you know, the dream, you know, have enough clinics that we can kind of bop between them and keep an eye on everything, but not, you know, be in the daily grind of like one clinic all the time.
Gotcha. What resources do you have for financing? Because it's going to come down to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now, I mean, his grandparents are an option.
We technically in the States, I have a bank that we could probably get a loan with once we get there. But the thing is that all of the stuff that we're going to be doing here is going to be from capital that we raise here, basically, because we don't have any outsourcing capital. So that's why it's going to take a couple of years for us to be able to gain. the good thing is that it doesn't take a lot of money here to be able to do something like that. The cost of living is relatively cheap, rent's relatively cheap, so we could get a place, lease a place.
People's salaries are very inexpensive as well. Things are just very cheap here.
Payroll
so that's why.
won't be very much, and stuff like that. So once we get something started, I think it'll just be revenue, basically, hopefully.
Yeah. But we're hoping in 2 years, though, we can save up around 10 to 15,000, which here will be I don't even know. It's times 3.3, so it'd be 33,000. Yeah, so quite a bit. In Peruvian money, it's quite a bit more.
And I think that we'll even have more of that because the clinic is because we're getting 25% of the net profit of the clinic at the end of the year, and so if we're able to double the patient base like we're hoping to do, that clinic is already making about 150,000 a year is what we calculated. So we'll minus payroll and stuff like that, we'll get a certain percentage. But then if we are able to double the patient base, then that's just that much more capital that we have to work with. And it's the cost of living here is so cheap. We're spending maybe $500 to $600 a month just on doing things around the city. So, but we're kind of thinking where we could use you as a tool to kind of help us with some coaching, get us kind of started in what we need to do.
Places, books to read, things to study. We don't have any, graduating from school, we have no business training. I don't even know where to start to learn how to do it right. I don't want to do trial and error. I'd rather learn the right way to do things.
Since you have 2 years, I think your number one priority should be saving the money, which you already know that because you need to be financed for that. Let me ask you this. If you're going to have people come and work there, are you going to pay them?
Yeah, so we're going to do something like what we do. So we're not making a ton of money. U.S. money, we're making hardly anything. We each get $1,000 a month. And so we use my $1,000. It pays for our rent, all of our utilities, and all of our groceries. So all we have to use out of his is just, a tiny amount to, go and do special things. So if we have someone work, $1,000 US a month covers for one person. When I was living here by myself, I had plenty of money.
Yeah.
It covers everything. So even though the US doctors aren't going to get paid a lot, it's more, you get to live in a different country, learn a culture, and, we're hoping we can find an office. Here they have a lot of live-in buildings. So the downstairs is the office and upstairs has a couple rooms. So we can have the downstairs as an office in whatever building we end up with. And then the upstairs will have free rent for the whatever chiropractor is living there.
Okay. Are you, my concern is that on day one, you won't have revenue coming in to cover their payroll if you had them there day one. So my advice would be to operate that clinic for a certain period of time to get it off the ground so that there is a patient base and then bring people in.
Yeah, that's what we're planning to do.
A year, a whole year, or if we needed 2 whole years of us working in the clinic, getting it going, getting staff that we can trust and, they're trained well enough because the doctor we work for now, he kind of put us in there. He didn't train any of the staff. The staff turns over so quickly because they have
a big staff turnover.
Yeah, it's just they don't train people well enough. They're not. No one's prepared. They throw you in the job and they're like, "Can you handle this?" And they're not like.
And nobody has a real chiropractic background either. So it's you have to educate them on chiropractic. You have to educate them on how to talk to people. And this is something that we're doing on a daily basis with these people is that we're trying to teach them how to do health talks and stuff like that because we don't know the language yet. So we're not able to communicate with everybody. So we depend on them to translate, to communicate the message and everything. So it's been kind of a learning experience. But, everybody seems to pick it up and everybody's pretty, high energy about it too. Yeah. So it's something that, hopefully if we can do it here, then we can transplant it and do it in other places as well with other people.
So over the next 2 years, I would take exactly what you just told me and turn it into something that needs to be done. I think you need to develop a training program for people that you're going to hire, especially if you're going to run it remotely. Everything that goes on needs to be figured out and thought through. If you want them to do talks, you need to write those talks now and have it ready to go. Have them translated by someone there who's, bilingual, who can do that, or maybe you'll be able to soon. But that's one thing we've found. So we never had a policy and procedure manual. Don't tell Dr. Slavic, but in our clinic in Colorado, we never did the whole time my wife and I were there because we were the policy and procedures. We knew what we knew. But the minute we moved from Colorado to Kansas City, that wasn't the case anymore. And we needed to be able to tell people, here's how it's done. It's written down. Please read through it and make sure you understand it. And that way I could hold them accountable for if they didn't. I could come back and say, well, you signed off that you knew this, and how come you didn't do it this way, So as you work through these and the difficulty you're having, all of this is a learning experience to get clear what that is and then start putting that together. I think after 2 years of being there, you guys are going to know all of the moving parts of how a clinic operates, both what's good about what you're working in and what's wrong with what you're working in, right? So it won't be that you won't know what to do in a couple of years. It just will be that you need to be able to, like I said, write it down, create a system out of it and a procedure, and then be able to communicate that to the people that you're going to bring in. So I would make that first and foremost. Along with that goes developing a vision for your practice. And it sounds like you already have that. I mean, what you guys have articulated to me is that you already have a concept in mind, you already have a location in mind, and that's a lot of the beginning stuff of first starting out is thinking through all of that and putting those pieces together. And I think, again, over the next 2 years, that's going to get even more clear based on what you're seeing here, because you're already identifying how you could make it a better experience in your clinic for the people that will be in your shoes when they come out, right?
Yes.
So finances, you have a plan to save. You're going to need to do that for sure. Start looking. It's probably too early now, but once you've figured out sort of a region, then start looking specifically within that region, where exactly you want to be. What street corner, whatever. And look what's all around that area. Consider what the demographic is. Is it similar to where you're at now? Look at who utilizes chiropractic. And here at least, every brand of chiropractic is different and attracts something different. What I mean by that is if I'm a CrossFitter, which obviously I am, I'm going to go, want to set up near that place so that those people come see me. Or if I'm all about pediatric chiropractic, then I'm going to go set up in a place that has a demographic where there's tons of kids, and that's what I want to serve. If you're just sort of serving the general public, then the general public is anywhere. You just want to be where those people are, or you want to be in an area, even if it's remote, that people will travel to. So, that's how it works here. I imagine it's probably the same there. But again, you're going to dial that in pretty well over the next couple of years. Have alternate locations, at least 3, and look into them pretty deeply, because I can't tell you how many times someone says to me, I want to be in Portland. And then they go up to Portland and they spend some time up there and they're like, crap, this is not okay. The cost of living is whatever, and the saturation is whatever, and it turns out, you just find these things out. But they were deep into Portland for an entire year, their final year in school, you know what I mean? And they had no plan B. And they're like, well, shit, okay, what are my other options? Consider all those options right out of the gate pretty heavily. Spend some time really researching them so that hey, plan A has this going for it, but here's the downside. Plan B has this going for it, and be totally flexible.
Okay. And we planned on visiting a couple times each year, at different seasons. It means it is it's a really nice place. Peruvians always talk about northern Peru is the beach area. It's the pretty area. People travel there for vacation, but it's nice enough that people also live there year round. Yeah. So the beaches where we live, people only travel there January through March. That's the only time it's warm. But when we get to the upper, people travel there for vacation, but it's also a tourist destination. So that's why we're hoping, it has the most turnover of people, and it's it's a nice environment, and it's somewhere that we can see attracting doctors to want to come there. We wanted somewhere too that was going to be easy to advertise. You weren't going to have to convince the people that it was a cool town. They would, instantly be like, okay, that looks like a nice place to live. So.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing definitely some traveling all around Peru. So we're going to be scouting for places the entire time we do that kind of stuff. So.
And the thing here is no one knows about chiropractic.
Yeah, so, saturation is very small. And some chiropractors are considered like massage. It's like a massage therapist. Like we see them like set up and it'll say like chiropractic, whatever. And we see them like in a massage chair, just like laying down and getting rubbed down and stuff like that. So like there's
a lot of fake
the vision of chiropractic here is skewed, like depending on, we have some people come in that have seen that kind of stuff and that's what they expect whenever they get into the treatment room. And then we adjust them and they're like, where's the rub down? Where's the rub-a-dub action? And we're just like, no, that's not what we do. That's not chiropractic. So.
But even with the misunderstanding, like we see around 115 patients each week at the clinic. So, it's not like we're like the owner wants it to be much higher, but we're like, that's a steady flow of people for right now. Yeah. So it's not super, super hard to find the patients. It's just, we have to get word out, which will be part of our thing. We have to do, some significant outreach to the area while we start the business up.
Yeah. And we're in the process of changing the face of the clinic right now. Is that because before Serina got there, it was mainly like an older.
It was all old people.
Old
really,
people,
really
old
people
that were looking to get out of. There was a last ditch effort to get out of pain and stuff like that. And now we're kind of changing the face of the clinic, getting more young people, getting more mothers, getting more children in there, and
we're not. Especially our style is a little more aggressive, like. That 95-year-old patient isn't going to love getting some muscles stripped, Yeah. But we've been attracting a lot more of like our age type people, which they've never had in the clinic before. So we're like, it's nice to see that just us being there and putting out, our information is drawing in the type of patients that we want.
Yeah.
So
and we're looking for places to do health talks and to do screenings and stuff like that, and we're like, okay, we want to go to like gyms, we want to go to like yoga studios, dance studios, like places like this to be able to we want to talk to like the staff of a gym, kind of educate them on chiropractic, how we can help, how they can help us,
Because there's no chiropractors who do anything active. Yeah. It's all, pain management for older patients generally.
And they were like, oh, a gym, I see that, that might work. And they're like, they've never even thought about doing any of these different things to do. So we're just like, yeah, we need to dip into these pools of people if we want to, kind of start bringing those people into the clinic. So
we were doing all our screenings at like large office buildings, office
cubicle
buildings
workers,
cubicle
like
workers,
that.
And they're like, "This is awesome. I don't want to spend my money on it."
Yeah.
What about athletes there, like soccer and stuff like that?
Yeah. Another thing too, like these gyms usually have soccer fields and the people practicing and stuff like that. So if we can get into them, then start talking about sports and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like gate one. We want to get into like the active community a little bit, and then from there find like sports leagues, like actual teams of soccer players and stuff.
And that's something that I want because I want to play in a league. So if I could get into a league and then start networking that way, then I think it'll be good. But yeah, it's just the type of patients here that they deal with are different than we've been used to, and so we're kind of trying to steer it towards the patients that we like. But
we just have, we have tons of thoughts and ideas and like direction and stuff, but we simply have no idea what it takes to start a business.
Yeah, well, I'll go through real quick the high points, and there's just a whole lot. There's a ton, but in the planning process, it's all about the money. So make sure that you budget and look at the cost of living. If, like I said, plan A, B, and C. Make sure that the cost of living, check what it is there compared to what your area. Maybe where you are, $500 a month pretty much takes care of it, or $1,000, but someplace else that might not be true. So make sure you're aware of that before you make that commitment, because if you only have $40,000, let's say, to start, and you know exactly what your monthly expenses are, you might say, okay, if we never made one nickel, we'd be out of money in 6 months. Well, then that gives you 6 months to start creating revenue, because month 7's not going to happen. You'll have to close your doors if not. See what I mean? So in your budgeting, you're just budgeting for another month of life, because another month of life is another month of opportunity to bring those people in and have it flip from not being profitable to being profitable. So that's your number one thing. I would list out equipment in terms of minimal need. So don't go big. The whole go big or go home, that's bullshit when you're starting out. Start out with minimum of what you think you're going to need and become solvent with that. So meet your expenses so that it's not costing you any more money to be open. And everything on top of your expenses becomes profit at that point. Then when you can start making some profit, you're saving for what I call version 2.0 of your office. When you're doing 1.0, you're lean and mean. So I don't know what that means. That might be 2 tables, or you guys share 1 table, a desk, a computer. I mean, it's the bare minimum to get open. A printer, scanner, fax, copier. Office chairs, waiting room stuff, a front desk. I've seen clinics where they're 800 square feet and there's 1 desk, 1 computer, and 1 table, and one person works 3 days a week and the other person works the other 3 days a week, and they're open 6 days a week, but they're only paying expenses on 1 table, they didn't duplicate. And they'll do that for a year, and then that's what I mean by lean and mean. And then they grow it till they're out of the danger zone and they're profiting, and they take that profit, and the next year they go big, or bigger. So I would plan a growth strategy like that. Because at first you're just not, money's going to be an issue. It just will be. And I've seen too many docs come in, and this is mostly in the U.S., but they think, I'm a doctor, I need this awesome table. It's got to have all of these drops, and this laser's badass, and everything about it, this is me being a doctor, and this is how I'm going to do it. And and then 8 months later, and it's a true story, 8 months later, with this, I know a couple of people this has happened to, but all of their stuff is sitting in consignment in some shop, because turns out that wasn't a great strategy for year 1. So just be cheap, keep being cheap, and it sounds like you guys are already doing that. Start honing in on the best way to get your message out. Is that public talks? Is that having a staff that markets for you? Is social media viable in Peru? I have no idea. How much is it utilized?
Everyone under 30, I would say, but over 30, probably sparse, hardly any.
Okay, but you want to get on the under 30 market. Now, what's the average age that women have children there? Is it 18? Is it 25? Do you know?
So it's a little weird here because people live with their parents until they're married. So people aren't getting married. People have kids there's that boom of out of high school, kids out of wedlock type age. But then people really aren't getting married until around 25, 26, and then having kids.
Yeah, once they get graduated from whatever college they're going to, and then they're, find somebody and move out of their parents' place and stuff. But, usually it doesn't go until, 25, 26,
It's a little later than the United States.
Okay, but the people who are having kids are also online.
Right,
yeah.
Because they're under that 30. Okay. Yeah, so you're going to want to have a marketing strategy around that for no matter where you are. And Facebook's really where it's at for that, because you can target specific demographic regions, education level, interest, all of this stuff that way. And there's a whole strategy around that. And I recommend that you pick up a book called Social Media Made Me Rich by Matthew Loop. I think it's about $20. I bought it, and I've interviewed him on the podcast. The episode isn't going to air for a couple more weeks. But
well, say again.
Matthew, and the last name is Loop, L-O-O-P.
Okay.
And start following him, too, on Facebook, because he gives away a lot of just free advice and everything like that. But I've been following him for years and watched his career sort of blossom. And he doesn't just represent chiropractors. He is a chiropractor, and he started doing that, but he's gotten so good at it that he's become a social media promoter for a lot of different people. But if you get that book, I mean, it's solid. It is step by step, like the how to do it manual. It doesn't say just go create a Facebook page and get some likes. Like, it tells you exactly what to post, exactly how to do it. If you want to release a press, and it's not just Facebook. It's Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever. I mean, it goes on and on. It's hundreds of pages. It's like reading the encyclopedia. It's not like you're going to sit down and get into a good read. It's a cookbook. You're going to open it up and you're going to work that book and set everything up the way he says to. So and that included in that is a Facebook Live strategy. So you want to be able to go on and do Facebook Live and things like that. But look at what works there. I mean, I can tell you what works here. But if social media is a thing down there, you're going to want to start leveraging that at least 90 days before you actually open your doors, because you want to create a buzz around, hey, community, whatever the town is, we're coming. Here's what we're all about. Here's our brand. And it's really you and what you offer. And like you said, there's confusion there about what chiropractic is. Is it the rub-a-dub? What is it? You can eliminate all of that confusion by putting your brand out there like that. And then the people that come see you, they've already Facebook stalked you. Like, they know who you are, what you do. They're not showing up confused, needing to be educated and closed. They are showing up because that's totally something they want. And the answer is yes. What I mean by that is, hey, you guys ready to start? Yes, that's why I'm here. Okay. And you just go.
Right.
So you want to utilize all of those tools. Here in the U.S., I mean, there's press releases and all this stuff like that can benefit you as well, even though newspapers aren't a thing anymore. Still getting press release is helpful because Google rewards people who are experts, and press releases go out online and Google indexes them and says, oh, these guys are authority figures in this industry. Let's boost their ranking. Blogs and all of that stuff can help too. So you want to have, in addition to social media, you need a website as well. And that's just one little piece. You also want to come up with internal and external marketing strategies. So external is going to be everything outside the office, right? Getting the word out, talking to people. Here, there's Rotary Club. There's all of these organizations. There, it might be soccer groups and teams, and it's sports and schools where all of that takes place, gyms. But start brainstorming now a list of all of those types of places, and let's take it a step further back. Create your ideal practice profile, your dream practice. What's that look like? What kind of people are coming in there? Where is it located? All of that stuff. Next, come up with your ideal patient profile. And another word for that in marketing is called an avatar. So who's your avatar? And I'd even go online and find a picture of somebody that you don't know who fits the description. 28-year-old male, 26-year-old female with kids, whatever it is. Put that picture on a piece of paper and then write where they're from, what they like to do, what clubs they belong to, what their favorite song is. I mean, you're going to make up a fictional profile for this person, and then you're going to figure out where this person goes, what they do, where to find those people, and you work backwards from the person you want in your office. Used to be this philosophy was if they have a spine, they're mine, and that's, I treat anyone with a spine. Well, pick that person, find that person. There's a guy that's going to be on Monday's episode, and he's like, everyone that comes in my practice is my doppelganger. Like, he's got a hipster beard and all of his stuff, and and the joke is in his practice that he's treating everyone who looks just like him, and he's like, yeah, because that's who likes me. So, figure out who that person is and go where those people are. And that's going to be different in option A, B, and C. So you're doing a lot of work, but if A doesn't work out, you're like, bam, I can flip this and we're going to go to B because I already know where I'm going to be. I already know who the people are. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's work intensive. And the way that Haley and I do stuff, because we work on our practices a lot and the podcast, and I'm writing a book and everything like that, is we make a lot of hard choices. Like, if we could go out and have fun, we turn that down so that we can stay home and work. I mean, that's what hard work looks like. So just be prepared to do a lot of hard work. and to sacrifice. I know that seems like obvious, but
we know what you mean. We're already having to do it, like just saving money here. People are like, let's go here, let's go on vacation, let's go do this, and we're just like, we stay home on the weekends because we save our money. So
we need to recoup because we're still trying to learn how to be doctors itself. Like we're putting a lot of time and energy whenever we are at work, trying to, how do we handle patients? How do we handle with the staff? How do we talk to our boss? How are we going to, help revamp this clinic? So it's like a daily grind type thing that we're doing now. And, like I just graduated 2 months ago, so I still am trying to learn how to become a doctor in a country that I don't know how to even speak the language. So it's like, it's been a real learning curve, and I just feel like I'm settling in now. So, yeah.
My thing was, I went to Haiti in last January, and then around February I opened my business, and I had it until July, and then I came down here and worked as just a single chiropractor in a clinic. And so, I don't know, I feel like I'm like ready to go do this type of stuff, because I've started my own small practice, and then I've worked solo for 4 months in a country that I didn't know a single person. And then now, like, having him here and having to expand the clinic, I feel like I've went through a lot of the growing steps. I just need to, like, learn more.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's going to not be new anymore. I mean, for a while, every day you come in, it's something new and you're learning something new, but that levels off at a certain point and it becomes repetition. And once that happens, the way I approached it is now I'm refining it, right? I learned all of this stuff over here. It was all the first time. It's like learning to walk as a kid, but now I'm getting my motor skills and I'm really dialing it in, and you know what I mean? It's exactly the same thing. So that by the time your 2 years is done, like I say, you guys should be very, very close to where you need to be and know a lot more about what you need to be doing, and have a whole lot figured out. That's just how it works. And especially like once you're in practice, at a certain point, it's all repetition. You've seen frozen shoulder a million times. You've seen all the conditions a lot. You've met just about every personality type out there before. You had the person that loves you and the person that doesn't like you. You know what I mean? So, and it becomes really just becoming an expert at the process and systems because you're going to see the same thing over and over. And so, again, my advice is create the systems now. You don't know what they're going to be, but start writing general ideas down. And it's amazing how when you do this and then 6 months later you come back and look at your headings. And when I say headings, I mean like how you're going to talk to patients. You can write that down. Patient communication, phone call greetings, report of findings, when you're done with care and you're releasing them, like all the different things you're going to communicate to a patient. Maybe you could expand that to external things like public talks and all this. But when you go back and revisit those headings, you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, these three things are really just this one big point. So I don't need three separate categories. I'm just going to talk about those all fall under this larger category. That's what I mean by refining. You'll see that as you go. So I guess my point in all this is that it's fine that you don't know what you don't know right now, but just write it out and start figuring things out. If there's something that's out there that you're really not sure about, start listing those as well. And Google is your friend, and I'm not saying Google everything, otherwise we'd just be on Google all the time and our whole lives would be figured out for us. But it's a resource. Look there and see what's going on if you have a question about things. I mean, your situation's unique. Not everyone does what you're doing, so there's probably not a whole lot of information out there about the specifics of what you're doing. But opening a business is opening a business, so there's a lot about that out there.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's something that our employer could help us out with too, because he's been doing it. And he said that as long as we weren't, practice next door or something like that, then he'd be more than happy to help us out with stuff like that, like the legal stuff, how we're, have to pay taxes, how we have to do payroll here, how, what.
Plus, we have another really kind of someone we respect more. There's another chiropractor down here that's lived here for like 16 years, and he's very, very smart his clinic has a lot of people. It runs really smoothly. he makes a very good profit off just having minimal things,
Yeah.
and he knows like all of the legal stuff. I think we'll definitely talk to him when it starts to get more serious.
He's from Colorado.
Yeah.
Will he let you go shadow for a day or two?
Yeah.
For sure.
He's always asking us to come into the clinic, and I haven't.
Because he hasn't, I mean, he's been here for, I don't know, I think it's been like 20 years at least. So he doesn't know a lot of the new stuff, that chiropractic's been moving towards in the States. So he has us over for dinner like at least once or twice a month. And, his family makes dinner and we just talk about all the stuff, all the new stuff. He loves like the DNS stuff that we do. He'd never heard of breathing work, so
you never heard ART?
Yeah,
Stuff
he's
like that.
Us just kind of telling him, all of what chiropractic is moving towards, and him kind of telling us like, this is how this is how you start a successful practice. Like these are the things to do. So
yeah, keep that relationship close, and he'll be a good resource for a lot of things like getting an accountant and things like that. I mean, I'm totally flying blind. I have no idea what goes on down there, but you need an accountant on your side in America to help you figure out all that stuff, taxes and payroll. And they tend to know a lot about different areas, too. They can tell you, oh, no, over here it's done this way, and you should get this done. And it can just be a resource for you, as well as someone who just does your taxes. Trying to think of what else you guys need to know. It's early on. I would start. I recommend people start a binder of some sort, and you can do it either online, with Google Docs, or you can do it handwritten. But start really thinking and planning out all the aspects and having a central source where you're doing this. Until you really start writing things down, things are just abstract thoughts, and by writing them out and organizing them, you'll see a system start to materialize out of all of that. And you'll realize certain ideas weren't relevant anymore, and you'll take them out of the book or put an X through them. It's really a good tool to just keep you on track of where you're going. The other thing I would recommend doing is maybe work backwards from a date. So you're about 2 years out. So pick that date on a calendar, even if it's arbitrary and you don't know, and start working backwards from that date to where you are today. So, if you know that if there's any different, I guess there's no licenses there, so to speak, but any permits or anything you need, find out all about that and how long it takes to get those. If there's anything you have to apply for. If you need to find a contractor or somebody like that to finish a space for you or something like that. Build all of those times for every process in there. And then come up with, 18 months out, we're doing this. 12 months out, we're doing this. 6 months out, we're doing this. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
And then start filling in that calendar. You may not know what you need to do at this point, but as you talk to this mentor, this person that you have dinner with who's already doing it, and you talk to accountants and other folks, they'll start giving you information, and you see where that goes on the timeline, and just start working the plan.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I hadn't even slightly thought of that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Think about it like Google Maps. You know where you're going, you put in the destination, it tells you all the step by step. But most people don't live their lives like that. It just sort of happens, and I get that because it's a fun journey and that randomness will occur. But pick that spot and work backwards from there, and your chances of getting there on time go up.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you can think of right now?
Are there any books any other books you would recommend of just strategies and just information?
Directly applicable to chiropractic or just in general?
In general.
Yeah, there's a lot of books. I'm trying to think of what's a good starter book. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is a great book, but it was written, I think, in the 1920s, and it's long, and some of the verbiage has changed over the years, so it's a long read. I listened to it on audiobook to get through it, but it's got so many relevant ideas. I would get the updated version because you'll hear a lot of examples of entrepreneurs of the day like Henry Ford and people like that. But the updated version brings in like Steve Jobs and Apple and things like that so that you have more modern day examples. But it covers a lot of different ground. It's almost I think there's one other book that came before it that was like of its type. But what the guy did was he sat down and studied all of the very successful people of the time and found out what makes them tick and the strategies they use. And then he just mapped it out in a book. And there's a movie that came out about 10 years ago in a book called The Secret. And there's elements of The Secret you can see in that book. The idea of masterminds where you get a bunch of people together and you're all, this happens all over the place. You get a bunch of people from different businesses together and you talk strategy. And everyone's experience from the group boosts you and takes you further than you could go on your own. Sure, you could probably get there in 5 years, but hearing all of the advice of people around you who are in business as well, you're going to get there a lot quicker. So the idea of masterminds is covered in that book. There's a whole lot. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That's another big one. It's also older, I want to say from the 40s, but it's basic psychology. That is still 100% true today. One of the things it talks about is everyone's favorite sound is their name because it's one of the first things we hear as a kid is our own name. And the other thing that it talks about is that people, they always justify their behavior. And it talks about criminals. They interview criminals in jail, and they're like, well, I mean, I'm a good person, and it was the situation, and they've completely justified their behavior, you know what I mean? And so when you're talking to anybody, there's a psychology behind it. There's that person out there that knows they should lose weight, but it's like, hey, but, it's Christmas, and what are you going to do? I mean, they're justifying it, So knowing the psychology of how people do things is valuable and totally applicable to what we do. Another really good book is by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek. Came out about 10 years ago. Maybe you should start with that just because it's a shorter book. It's a quicker read. And what Tim Ferriss did was he basically put himself on the map by being an entrepreneur, failing fast. If he had an idea and it didn't work, he learned a lesson quickly and moved on. He goes through how to start an online business. And a lot of it's changed because Google doesn't work the same way as it used to then and things like that. But the lessons that are in there in terms of how to set up a business, how to structure your thoughts and plan your life are really relevant. And he's got a great podcast as well that has people like Seth Godin, who's a big-time thought leader. You'll start discovering other people if you check out that book. And he's got a newer book called Tools of the Titans. It's about this thick, and it's all of the advice from the people who have been on his podcast. That's a good one too. I've got it, and I haven't gotten through it, but it's this thick, and there's so much information it might be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So those are ones I can think off the top of my head. There are all kinds of examples out there of that kind of thing. Books I've just read, but I at the moment I'm not recalling all the titles. But those ones get told to me over and over. How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But it's a mindset, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. It's a mindset. Another one, the EMyth.
I've heard of that one.
The EMyth by Michael Gerber. And real quickly, I'll tell you what its point is. And there's a lot in there, but the big one is that when you first start out, and think about this in terms of chiropractic, you're the technician. You're the hands-on person who's going in, and that's your job. And when you are in chiropractic school, you're learning how to be the technician. You've got to pass your boards, and you've got to be technically proficient in your adjusting. And there's not a lot of business education typically because they're not there to teach you how to be an entrepreneur. They're there to teach you how to be the technician, right? So when you start a business, you're all about being a technician, except for you're like, well, I have to get people in here, so I guess I need to be a marketer. So that's not a technician. That's something different. and then now I've got this staff. I guess I have to be a manager. So I'm a technician, I'm a manager, and I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I think that's how he breaks those 3 roles down. And then you find that your headspace, they're all in there talking at the same time. So you have that, let's say you've been a year in practice, and that patient comes in, and you're looking through the new patient paperwork, and you're like, you know what, they didn't really answer these questions. I should make this form better so that it's more clear and gets the right information when people come in. Well, that's not the technician thinking. That's the manager or the entrepreneur, you know what I mean? And so what he says is you need to spend more time working on your business and less time working in your business. And so when you guys aren't there anymore, you won't be working in your business, but you'll be working on your business. And that's what Haley and I do now with our practices in Colorado and here. We're not working in the business anymore. We're not even wearing the technician hat. We're wearing the other 2 hats. But inevitably, when you go into practice for yourself, you're going to be doing all of those roles. And so that book lays out a strategy for how to deal with that and plan for that as you go.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
That's hours worth of reading right there, but it's a good starting spot. And audible.com, I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. You can go to the gym and work out. You can do all kinds of stuff just, on your iPhone or whatever. You can do it on Android too. But I don't have the time to sit and read, really, with 3 kids and the life that I lead right now. But I still read books. They're just audiobooks.
That works.
Well, anything else I can do for you guys right now?
I think that's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Just wanted to, talk to someone who we knew what they were doing to kind of make sure we were pointed in the right direction.
All right. Well, one last question. Would you guys have a problem if I shared this on the podcast or on Facebook or something like that, just so that others can benefit from it?
No, not at all.
All right. Awesome. Well, if you think of anything else, let me know. I'm happy to help. And but you've got plenty of time. I mean, that's the great part. It's just time's on your side. But use it. One other person you might want to check out, and it's easy to do, is just follow him on Facebook, is Gary V, V-E-E, or Gary Vaynerchuk is how you really spell it.
Okay.
But he owns the New York Jets, and he's a self-made gazillionaire who worked his butt off in the liquor industry. But he is very forthright and forthcoming with pretty blunt business advice for any business. And he's got one out there, I think it's Gary V's advice for 20-year-olds or something like that. But he's very clarifying. I'll let him, I mean, if you watch a couple of his things, he uses some spicy language and gets right to the point. But he speaks the truth.
Okay.
And I think anytime you're working on a business venture, you need the truth. I mean, it's hard. It's not impossible. But one of his things he says is be ready to eat shit for 2 years so that you can eat caviar after. And most people aren't willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So just know that that's the road and be ready to get your plate and your spoon and your fork ready.
Yeah. Yeah, we're finding that out here. And I think that's a good part about doing this kind of experience that we're doing is that it's kind of forced us to do that, think of it in that way so that we can build up for the future. And it's kind of breaking us down to, sometimes we don't have water. Sometimes we don't, I mean, not because we can't pay the bills, but just because that's the way the culture is here. So it kind of lets us take a step back, realize what we have, what we don't have, and then that we can appreciate it that much more so we can move forward. And
it's not a materialistic society at all. Like, it's very humbling. Like, patients will wear the same outfit every single time they come into the office. And that makes you realize, like, this is their nice outfit. Like, this is the outfit that they put on to go and see someone, And
it also makes you realize how much chiropractic is important because those people are spending a significant amount of their income
wages,
to be able to get treatment, and they're depending on us to do that. And so it's kind of like, makes
humbling.
It's humbling. So we can they're spending half of their month's paycheck so that they can come and get treated. So it's kind of opened our eyes quite a bit. So
just realized that we can live with a lot less than what we did back in Overland Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure it's very humbling and probably gratifying at the same time to be able to impact people's lives like that. And see a completely different standard of living, and know what you mean to them. So, well, awesome. Again, let me know. Reach out anytime if I can help you guys.
Thank you so much for taking this time.
Yeah, thanks.
It means a lot to us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Well, best of luck with everything, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Thank
Okay,
you.
sounds good.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Cairo Business Mojo podcast at www.cairobusinessmojo.com.